Okay, is my screen visible to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. One sec. Yeah. So today we'll learn the chapter crop production and management. Okay. Now, have you all ever planted a seed? Tell me, both of y'all, Sakshi and Janvi. Have you all ever planted any seed?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So what do you all do? How do you all plant it? What is the process of planting it?
You take a seed, you take a little
Yeah.
with the seed, and then you cover it up, and then you water it regularly.
Okay. Cover it up with what?
Um, the soil, and then
Soil.
fertilizers above it.
Okay. All right. So in this chapter, we are going to learn about large scale production of crops. Now, can you tell me what is the difference between a plant and a crop? Now, we usually grow plants, okay? We grow it in our garden, we grow it somewhere in our backyard. But what is can we call these plants as crops, which we grow in our garden and backyard and all? Can we call them as crops?
No.
No. Any reason for it why we cannot call them as crops?
Crops mean growing a specific type of plant in large numbers, and planting
Large
one
number.
plant wouldn't is not large numbers. So that one.
Okay, now suppose I have a small plot of land. Okay, I have a small plot of land and I'm planting coriander seeds there. Will that be called a crop then?
It depends on what size of what's the size of the land and how many seeds you're planting, I think.
Okay, so a crop a crop is grown in very large numbers and it is grown for commercial purposes. Okay, it is grown for commercial purposes. That means they sell the products of these crops and income is and they get the income. Farmers grow it not for themselves. They don't grow it for their own house. Okay, they have to sell it and then they generate money from it. So that is a crop. A crop is grown in very large numbers for commercial purposes, which we grow in our garden, which we grow in our backyard. We do not sell those things. Okay, so it will not be called a crop. It will be called plants. Is that clear with both of y'all? What is a crop and a plant?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So in this chapter, we are basically going to study about how these crops are produced and what are the processes involved to manage these crops. Okay, how do we manage the production of these crops, the growth of these crops? Okay, next slide. Okay, so India can be called an agricultural country because most about we can say that India is called an agricultural country. I'll give you all reasons for that. But agriculture is one of the greatest employer in the world. That means agriculture is a sector. It's a profession that employs so many employs so many people. Okay, in the world, so many people are engaged in agriculture. All right, and India, out of all the agricultural land, India is covering 60.45% of the agricultural land. Out of 100%, India covers 60.45% of the agricultural land. So that means India is mainly engaged in agriculture because out of 100% of 60.45% is only there in India. Then India is basically dependent on agriculture. Clear? And about 70% of the villagers, they are They take this as their profession. They become farmers. They depend on agriculture for their livelihood. Okay, so that is their source of income. 70% of the rural areas, okay, 70% of the villagers, they take agriculture as their main source of income. And 22% of the people in India, they are farmers. So out of a whole lot, 22% of Indians, they're farmers. So we can basically say that India is an agricultural country because so many people are engaged in farming, and there is such a lot of land, agricultural land in India. That is 60.45% of the land from the entire world. 60.45% of land that is in India, of agricultural land, is in India. So India is basically an agricultural country. Okay, most of the people are, we can say farmers. Okay, because farmers, 22% of the people of Indians are farmers, and the rest percentage is of different professions, and there are so many different types of professions in our country. Okay, so out of that, 22% are farmers. So many people are engaged in agriculture. Next slide. Now, what is agriculture? I'm using the term agriculture all the time. Now, as kids, we always thought that agriculture is only related to plants, but it is not so. Okay, agriculture is also related to animals. Now, agriculture is a science of growing the crops and raising the animals. Okay, raising the animals. Why do we raise animals? For food, and we also get other products. We get if we raise a cow, we can get milk, we can get dairy products. And if we raise silk worms, we can get silk. If we raise sheep, we can get wool. So we are getting food as well as other products from these animals, and that is also coming under the category of agriculture. Agriculture is related to cultivating of crops and raising of the animals, and both are related to commercial uses. Means we are generating money from these two things. From the plants, the crops, after the produce is ready, then it is sold. Okay, and the animals, the products are sold in the market, so it is generating some income there. It is of some economical value. So that is coming under agriculture. These two things are coming under agriculture. And in agriculture, as I discussed before, that it is for a commercial purpose. Okay, plants, a large number of crops are grown for commercial purpose. For a commercial purpose, we generate money from them. Okay, next slide. Now, there are certain steps that need to be followed in agriculture. Okay, what are the steps we'll discuss? First is preparation of the soil. We have to prepare the soil before putting the seeds. Okay, we need to prepare the soil. Then you can sow the seeds. After sowing, we can add some manures and fertilizers to the soil. After that, we can irrigate the soil. We can irrigate the plants. Irrigate means supplying water to the plants. And after that, we can remove the unwanted plants from the crop field. From the crop field, we can remove the unwanted plants. Okay, that is, those unwanted plants are called weeds. So removing them is called weeding. And then after the crop is matured, it is ready. Ready. We can harvest it. Okay, we can cut it. After that, only for food grains threshing is done. Okay, for food grains threshing is done, but it is not done for all the crops. And after that, storage. And storage is also a very important step of agriculture, because if we do not store the produce properly, it will get spoiled. It is not going to generate any money. It is not going to generate any. It has no value then if it has been spoiled. Okay, so storage is also a very important step of the agricultural practices that we follow. Now we'll discuss one by one. Next slide. Okay, first comes the preparation of the soil. Now, first of all, we have to prepare the soil. Now, what is Preparation of the soil means before sowing the seeds, we need to do something to the soil. Okay, there are three things that we need to do. First is plowing. We need to plow the soil. Plowing means we need to loosen the soil. We need to make the soil very loose. Okay. If can you tell me if the soil is not loose, what will happen? If we don't plow the soil, what's going to happen?
It won't allow the roots to
It
grow.
won't allow the roots to penetrate into the soil. Yes, very good. Okay. So the roots cannot go into the soil because the soil is going to be very hard. Okay. So you need to loosen the soil so that the roots go into the soil easily. That is called plowing. Now, plowing is done by various instruments. Okay, like uh, in traditional times, farmers used to use a long iron thing that was called a plow. Okay, it had a iron. It had a iron. Something which is pointed and a wooden handle. Okay, and they used to plow the field with a plow. Okay, but nowadays, after that, bullocks came. Okay, then they realized that if, yeah, bullocks, if they tie the bullocks and they walk about in the field, then the soil also becomes loose. But nowadays tractors are used. You can see the wheels of the tractors. They're very big and they're very heavy. Once they run over the field, once they move about in the field, even the uh, soil is going to become loose. Okay, so nowadays tractors are being used. That is a modern method of plowing. After plowing, we also need to level up the soil. Why we need to? We already plowed the field. Now, why we need to level the soil again? Can anyone tell me why? Because we already loosened the soil. Now again, we need to level it. Why? Why do we need to do that? Anyone, can anyone answer? No? Okay. So we need to level the soil because if the soil is so loose and there is heavy rain or a storm, what will happen? The soil, the top soil, it will fly and move to some other place. Okay, the top soil, which is very fertile, we always say the top soil is very fertile. So the top soil will fly and move to some other place. It or with the running water, like if it is raining heavily, then the top soil will be removed. That will spoil the fertility of the soil. Therefore, we need to level it. We need to level it means we need to make it in a level, okay? And that is done by a machine called a leveler. You can see the second picture. That's a leveler, okay? So it levels the soil. It makes it in a level so that the soil particles are not very loose and then they cannot be blown away easily. So that is leveling. After that is, now we need to manure the soil. We need to add manures to the soil. Now, why do we need to add manures before sowing the seeds? It is because batches and batches of crops are growing in the same field. So when crops are growing, they are taking the nutrients from the soil. So now nutrients are getting over from the soil. Nutrients are becoming very less in the soil. So before growing the next batch of crops, we need to add manures to the soil to increase the fertility of the soil. Therefore, we add manures to the soil so as to increase the fertility of the soil, because the fertility has been lost by the previous batch of crops. Okay, the crops that had grown in the previous batch has already taken up the nutrients. The plants have taken the crops there had taken up the nutrients. So now the soil is having very less nutrients. Therefore, we need to manure the soil. We need to add manures to the soil so that the fertility is comes back. Okay, so that the soil becomes fertile again. Is
So,
yes,
do
yes,
you have to manure the soil after every single batch, or do you do it like after 2, 3?
yes. We need to manure the soil at the starting once and somewhere again in the middle. Okay, we need to manure them so that the because after every batch the fertility is reduced because the crops had already taken up the nutrients. So in order to ensure that the soil is fertile for the next batch of crops, we need to manure them. Okay. Is the step clear to all of to both of you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the next slide. Okay. After preparing the soil, we first of all, what we did, we plowed the soil, leveled it, and added manures to it. Now we need to sow the seeds. Now, in traditional methods, how farmers used to sow the seeds, they used to scatter about the seeds. But what is a disadvantage of that method? Is that some seeds will be very close to each other, some seeds will be very far away from each other. So there is no specified distance. There is no specific distance between the seeds. So that's a disadvantage. Why that's a disadvantage, I'll tell you. Because suppose two plants are growing very close to each other, what will happen? They will try to take the nutrients from that part of the soil. Okay, so they will compete for nutrients. So one plant will grow up to a good height, and one plant will have good growth, and one plant will not have a good growth. So that's a disadvantage. So they will compete for everything. They will compete for sunlight, they will compete for space, they will compete for water, they'll compete for all the things that they need to grow if the plants are very, very close to each other. So that was used in traditional times. Okay, farmers used to scatter about the seeds, but that had no specific distance, and then it used to lead to some crops growing very good, means they are having a good growth, and some crops are not having a good growth. But nowadays a seed drill is used. You can see the second picture. It is the picture of a seed drill. Okay, so the white colored containers, you have to put seeds into that. When the tractor moves, when the tractor like thing moves, then the seeds will be dropped into the soil at particular distances, at specific distances from each other. Okay, they will be at the same distance from each other. So that is one advantage of the seed drill. And when they will be at the same distance, they will also be put somewhere deep. When you scatter the seeds, we are not putting the seeds deep into the soil, but the seed drill will ensure that it goes deep into the soil. That is another advantage of using a seed drill. And the third advantage is sometimes a seed drill also covers the seeds with the soil. They're covering up the seeds with the soil. As someone as you all told me that when you all sow the seeds, you'll cover it up with the soil. So the seed drill also does that work. Okay, it covers up the seed with the soil. Why? If it is open, if the seeds are open, there is a chance that some rodents or some birds, they eat it. Okay, so the seed drill is doing three things. One, it is sowing the seed at correct distances from each other. Secondly, it is sowing them at a depth. And thirdly, it is covering up the soil. So it is doing three things. And nowadays, a seed drill is used for sowing the seeds. Is this process clear to you all?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next slide. Now we already added manures in the first step while preparing the soil for sowing the seeds. After sowing the seeds also, we add manures and fertilizers to the soil. Why we add manures? The same reason, because in order to increase the fertility of the soil, we add manures and fertilizers to the soil. Because the soil has become infertile, so in order to increase the production of the crops, to give it a good growth, so that it will have a nourishing growth, so we add manures and fertilizers to the soil. And what is the difference between both of them? Manures are something which is really natural. It is coming from a natural source. It may be coming from a plant or an animal. Okay, the plant waste, animal waste, the plant products, the animal products, we get manures from that. And fertilizers are something that are made. It is a compound that is made. Okay, and these are some nutrients are added to these fertilizers. So it is rich in some nutrients. So we can say that manures are mainly rich in organic matter, which we get from plants and animals. And the fertilizers, they are rich in the nutrients that the plants need. So mainly all the fertilizers, they are rich in three elements. They mainly contain nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These three elements are mainly present in the fertilizers because plants mainly require these three elements. Okay, that is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Is this clear to y'all? Sakshi, is it clear to you? Are you able to understand?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next slide. After that, after adding of manures and fertilizers, we water the crops. Water is supplied to the crops. Now, um, traditionally, they used, what are the sources of the water? That it can be from a well, a dam, river, lake, pond, tube wells, hand pumps. It can be from any source. Okay. So first, farmers used many different types of methods. They used different types of traditional methods. But nowadays, modern methods, there are two systems of irrigating the crops. One is the sprinkler method and one is the drip irrigation method. The first two pictures you'll see, it is called a sprinkler method. You all must have seen sprinklers somewhere in a park or something. It has these small holes on it. Okay, it has these small holes on it and it rotates. So when it rotates and the switch is on, then water sprinkles everywhere. Have you all ever seen a sprinkler? It
Yeah.
works like this. Okay, it is. You all must have seen it in a park or somewhere like that. Okay, a recreation ground. So these type of sprinklers are used in the crop field, and it is more of a machine type of work. Means no farmers are engaged in doing it. Only they have to. It is very less time taking, and lot of labor is not required. A lot of farmers are not required to do it. So they do it very easily. It is the sprinkler. It is called the sprinkler system. Now, a disadvantage of this system is that a lot of water is being wasted. Okay, so they came up with another system that's called the drip irrigation system or drip irrigation system. Okay, you all can see two pipelines going, and then these pipelines are having tiny holes at a distance from each other. These tiny holes are connected with thinner pipes, and these thinner pipes are there towards the roots of the plant. So what happens? They will open it, and the water goes drop by drop to the roots because the entire plant doesn't need the water. The water is needed not by the leaves, not by the stem, not by the flowers or the fruits. It is needed by the roots because roots absorb the water. So why waste water by sprinkling it everywhere? Okay, lot of water is being wasted in the first method. So they have come up with this new method that is called the drip irrigation method. It waters the plant only at the roots, that is drop by drop. So it saves a lot of water. It saves a lot of water, and it is mainly used for the fruit plant for the fruit trees. Okay, this type of system is mainly used for the fruit trees. Have you all understood this step?
Yes.
Both of you? Okay, we'll go to the next step. Okay, now the plant takes some time, it grows, and when it becomes mature enough, when it becomes that mature, it has to be cut. Now, in traditional times, they used to use a sickle. Have you seen a sickle? It is like a C-shaped structure and a wood. They cut grass and they cut things. That is called a sickle. Okay, a C-shaped something it is, and it has a wooden handle. Then you cut grass or something. Have you ever seen it?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
Okay. So traditionally, people used to use a sickle. They used a sickle to harvest the crops, but that took a very lot of time. And so many farmers had to be engaged in the process of harvesting. Okay? But nowadays, there are tractors that do the work. What these tractors do, while they move, they cut the crops and they even store it. Okay? They even store it somewhere. So it does it within a very less time. The tractors do it in a very less time. So machine work is done there. More of manual labor is not involved then. Okay, so nowadays, in India it is not seen so much because it is not cost effective. But in foreign countries, okay, they use these tractors for harvesting the crops. But nowadays still they use the sickle method of harvesting. Many parts in India, okay, they still use this method of harvesting the crops. Okay, after harvesting the crops, after cutting the matured crop, now what is needed? Suppose it is a it's paddy. Okay, from paddy, what do we get? Which food grain do we get from paddy?
Rice.
Yeah. So we get rice from paddy. Okay. So suppose bundles of paddy are tied together. It forms a bundle. You all can see the second picture. Okay. Lot of women, they are beating those bundles on a drum. They're beating those bundles on a drum. What they're trying to do is they are trying to separate the grains from the stalks of the plant. They're trying to separate the grains, okay, from the stalk of the plant. So what happens when they beat it to the drum? The grains fall down, okay, and the grains are separated from the stalks. So that process is called threshing. That process is known as threshing. After threshing, they have obtained the seeds. Okay, the seeds fall down. Now they gather all the seeds. Now what they do? The seed has an outer covering, a golden color outer covering. Okay, golden brown color outer covering. Now they have to remove that from the rice. So how do they do that? They do it by a process called winnowing. Okay, it is this husk. It is also called the husk. The husk is removed from the food grain, and then in the direction of wind, they sieve it like this. And so what happens? The grains fall somewhere down, somewhere below, and the other skin, which is very light, because there are two types of particles there. The rice is heavier, and the skin of the paddy, means the skin of the rice, that is lighter. So with the wind, it flies to a distance. And what happens to the rice? It falls down. So that process is known as winnowing. So removing the grain from the chaff is known as winnowing, or removing it from the husk, it is known as winnowing. So these three processes come under harvesting. After cutting the crop, threshing is done for the food grains so as to remove the seeds from the, or so as to remove the grains from the stalk. After removing the grains are separated out from the husk of the from its husk, and then in the direction of wind, they toss it about a little, and then you can see the picture, okay, of winnowing, the GI file. So you can see the husk moving away and the uh, grains getting stored in a container. Is that clear to all of you? Is that clear to y'all?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go to the next slide now. Okay. Now after everything is over, now we should not think that okay, all our work is done, because storage is also very, very important in that case. If this grains are not stored properly, then it is of no use. That all the processes that we came across, all the steps that was done by the farmer, it's of no use if storage is not done properly. Okay, now storage should be done properly so that it is not spoiled by the rain. It is not spoiled, like water does not spoil it, rodents do not eat it. So it should be stored in such a place which is free from rodents, free from any humid condition. Okay. So first of all, after the grains are separated, we should dry it in the sun. It should be sun dried, so that there is no moisture left in the grains. Okay. After that, they can be packed in the gunny bags, and they can be stored in a very big place that is called a granary, where you store the grains. So that's called a granary. You can see the granary is very big. Okay, the granary is very big and it is well ventilated. A lot of ventilation is there. Sunlight also can enter, and it is kept free from everything. There should be no rodents and no humid condition. Otherwise, it is going to spoil the grains. So it is stored in granaries. It is also stored in grain silos. You can see the next picture. It is metallic bins. Okay, these metallic bins are also there. Mud bins are also there. So you can store the grains in these metallic bins also. These are called the grain silos. Okay, so it is stored in these two methods. And if less grains are there, they can be stored in gunny bags and kept somewhere which is free of humidity and free of rodents. Rodents are the like rats, moles, okay, these insects that spoil the grains. So all these things it should be free from. Okay, so we'll carry out the experiments. Okay, one thing I forgot to tell you all, that weeding is also done. Weeding is done. The unwanted crops are removed out. Okay, the unwanted crops are removed out of the field, because what will happen if the unwanted crops are there? If the unwanted crops are there, then it will compete with the crops for food, for space, for sunlight. So the weeds have to be removed. Okay, previously the farmers used to uproot the weeds, but that is a very time taking process. A lot of labor is required for that, and nowadays weedicides are used. There are certain chemicals that are sprayed. Okay, that are sprayed in the entire field. There are certain chemicals that are sprayed in the entire field, and it removes the weeds. It does not affect the crop plants. It only kills the weeds. Okay, next slide. Okay, so in this experiment you all have to take two mud pots. Do you have mud pots with you all now?
I do have it, but I have only one.
I have two clay pots.
Okay, clay pots. Fine. What you'll have to do, I will just demonstrate what you'll have to do. You'll have to take, like, I have taken two paper cups, okay? You'll have to take two mud pots, because you all are going to grow the plant for a longer time. So you all will take two mud pots like this, and you all will make some holes in the pot. You all are going to make some holes. Why are you all going to do that? So that excess of water will come out from there, and the soil will also get air to breathe. Soil will also get air to breathe. I mean, the roots will get air to breathe. Okay, the roots will get air to breathe, and excess of water, if you put little water and it is too much for the soil to hold, then excess of water will drain out of these holes. Okay, so in one pot you have to add manure, and in one pot you don't have to add manure. Either manures or fertilizers. Can you get manure? Can both of you get manure?
Just one second.
Sakshi, you make compost na in your garden. So Sakshi
Yes.
can use compost directly. So let's do it this way, Nicola ma'am. Janvi can grow with fertilizer, and Sakshi can grow with manure.
Yeah. Okay.
Janvi, will you be able to get fertilizer? from a nursery?
Actually, the pots which we bought had already um, soil and manure in it.
Okay, it already had. Okay, so can you arrange for some soil without manure?
Okay, but
Because the aim of the activity is to observe growing a plant
Yes,
with manure and
you
without
will not
manure.
have to do it. Okay, you'll listen what to do, because this process is going to continue. It's not going to be over now. Okay, there's one pot which you have to. There's one pot where manure is to be put, and one pot without manure. Okay, and you have to grow mustard seeds in it. You have to grow mustard seeds in it. You have to put equal amount of water in both the pots, and you have to grow mustard seeds, and you have to see the development of the plant um, in few days. Okay, and you all have to record your observation, the pot without manure and the pot with manure. You all have to use equal amount of soil, equal amount of water, and you all have to put manure in one pot, no manure in the other pot, either manure or fertilizer in one pot and no manure in the other pot, and you all record your observation how the growth of the plant is. Okay, can you do it?
yeah, we do have a pot without soil without manure.
Okay, good. Okay, so y'all will label it. One is with manure. Y'all will put a paper, stick it on the pot with manure and without manure, so that we know what is the. Y'all can show the growth of the plant. Y'all can see and observe what is the growth of the plant in a pot with manure and without manure. Sakshi, can you do it? Because you are having compost, as Swapna ma'am said, right? You can add
I
compost to one, and you will not add compost to the other one.
I actually have only one pot with me.
Okay, you have one pot. You can get another container, like if not a pot, you can get a container, a plastic one. You
Okay,
can get a container, and you have to make holes. Ensure that you all have holes in the pots or the containers. Okay, you can get
okay,
another plastic container. That doesn't matter. Okay, but you have to make holes in it.
okay,
Anything which is not in use now, you can use that plastic container. Okay, uh,
okay.
yeah. So you all understood what is this experiment about. You all have to observe the growth in the plant, one with manure and one without manure. The same plant, mustard seeds you all are going to put. Equal amount of water. Don't put too much of water. Put uh, little water if it is a small pot, and put equal amounts of water, so that both the plants get equal amount of soil, equal amount of water. Only the difference will be that one is with manure and one is without manure. Then we can observe the growth of the plants in both the cases. Okay? Okay. Next experiment. Okay. Now this is the experiment of winnowing. Now winnowing, what is the principle behind winnowing? It is that two types of particles are there. One is a heavier one and one is the lighter one. So when wind blows, the lighter one flies away and the heavier one gets collected below. So that is the entire principle of winnowing. Okay. So we do you have roasted peanuts with you all now? Both
I
of
don't
you?
have peanuts with me right now.
Okay. Janvi, do you have it?
No.
All right, I'm having it. I'll just show you how it takes place. Okay, you have to see. Now you have to put it on a plate. You have to put the peanuts on the plate. Okay. You can see the peanuts and the skin. Okay. Now what we'll do? We will toss it about a little, and we'll see what happens. Now I cannot show it to you all on the laptop. I will try how to show it. I'll see how to show it to you all. First, I'm conduct. Um, is it visible? What am I doing?
Yes.
Yes.
a bit visible. You all cannot see it down. I'll show you all after it is over. Okay.
Okay.
So I have to, yeah, I have to toss it about like the okay. Now this requires wind, okay? And since okay, actually the results are not coming as we thought of. See what happens is because the wind should be from a particular direction, okay? The wind should be coming from this side. So when I'm doing it, all the skin of the groundnuts or the peanuts they fly away, and the peanuts, all of them get accumulated in one place. That is when wind blows from a particular direction. Okay, it will not happen otherwise. Okay. Um, it got scattered and we you all understood how winnowing takes place then? This was
Yes.
just to make you all understand how winnowing takes place, okay? Yeah. Next slide. So it is that the lighter particles get moved away and the heavier particles get accumulated down, okay? Next slide. Okay. Now what we'll do, we will select good quality seeds. How are we going to select the good seeds, and we are going to separate the good seeds from the bad seeds? So I have taken water in a container. All right. Now what seeds do you all have with you all?
I have lemon and mosambi and capsicum seeds and mustard seeds.
Mustard seeds. Okay. You all can try with and Sakshi, what seeds do you have?
I have coriander.
Okay. So what you'll do, you'll take a container with water, okay, and you'll put the seeds into the container. I'm putting the mustard seeds. You all will see some seeds floating on the top and some seeds sinking to the bottom. Can you see some seeds on the top here floating?
Yes.
So what is these seeds? These are not the good quality seeds. These are the bad quality seeds. These seeds have become hollow from inside, so they float on top. And what about the seeds at the bottom? They are the good quality seeds, so they settle at the bottom. You all even try it and show it to me. What is the result?
All my seeds are floating.
All your seeds are
Floating.
floating. I cannot see. Sakshi, are you saying that? Or Janvi? I cannot really make out who's saying
Sakshi.
that. Okay. So, Sakshi, I think your video is frozen. Or is it my device?
Yeah, your video is frozen.
Okay.
It's better now.
Now better? Yeah. Janvi?
Yes?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, Janvi. I don't know why the video is frozen. Is it my video or is it
Your video
your?
is frozen.
Okay. So give me 1 second. I'll just log in.
Yeah, so till then, you all can show me like what is the result of your seeds. What seeds are those, Janvi? You're on mute.
Lemon and mustard seeds.
Okay, now what happens is, when you take two different types of seeds, so some are light in weight, and the principle of density, right? Some float, some sink. But to kind of separate out good seeds and bad seeds, all the seeds must be of the same type. Then only, yeah. So typically, what we get at home, all the dals and everything that we get at home, usually they are cleaned and then they are packed and then they are sold in the market. So typically, what like if we try to put a handful of dal in a bowl of water, majority of it will sink, nothing floats. So usually, in godowns, or in, if you know this place called Market Yard in Pune, wherein the wholesale market for all the groceries and everything. So what they do is, they do one level of cleaning before they supply the material to us. So in that step, they are able to separate out the what do you say, the rotten or the hollow seeds very well. So in order to observe that, what you were asked to get is the split dals. So usually moong is a whole pulse, right? If you have the split moong, which has a peel, so you will understand that all the dals will settle, but some pieces of dal which are like broken, or which are hollow from inside, or the skin, they float on top. So, okay. So do you have the split dal with you? It must be there in the kitchen.
Yeah, I'll just ask.
Yeah. Do you have it, Sakshi?
I'm asking my mommy.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you need the yellow ones, right?
No, we need the green ones.
Oh, okay.
We
Teach
we need the green ones. We need the green ones. Because the yellow ones are like, they are washed and all after splitting. Yeah, no, no, the split ones. These are whole green moong. You can try it if you don't have it right now. You can try it after the class. Yes,
sorry,
Janvi.
something.
I said you can try it after the class if you don't have it right now.
Okay, I think we have it.
You have
Which
it?
one?
Okay. Oh yeah, yeah, that's the one. So if mom is letting you use some of it,
Yeah,
you
I
have
can
it.
I can use it.
You can use it, right? So take
Yeah.
take a good handful of dal in your with you. Take handful of dal, okay, and take a container with water, okay, and put the dal into the container. You will see that all the unnecessary stuff, like some of the peel or some broken pieces of dal, they will all float on the water, and all the good seeds will settle down at the bottom. So usually when your mom is cooking, she will throw away the upper part. She will use only the seeds which are settled in the bottom. Okay, so it's like kitchen science, but it is used in a larger scale in the agricultural industry. Yeah. So try doing it. Sakshi, do you have it?
Yeah, my mom is bringing them.
I can't hear you, Sakshi.
My mom is bringing them.
Okay, okay. So you can get it and we'll do the experiment.
Ma'am, I've got them. Some are whole, some are split.
No problem. Okay, Sakshi, do you have a bowl of water with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, put the seeds into water. Have you put them?
Yeah,
Okay, put it and adjust the camera onto the activity. Put all of them at once, Janvi. Do you see them? The good ones instantly settle down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can we see your results, Sakshi? Yes, yes. See? Okay, so this is how the seed selection, this is how you can do it at home. So usually what happens is whatever is settled at the bottom, they then dry it. The farmers then dry it and then they store it to use as the seed for the next cycle of crops. Okay, so this is how the seed selection is carried out. Okay, now we go to the next activity. Okay, now so you know this activity. Now this activity you can try with all the possible seeds. Whenever your mom is soaking chanas or choles or rajma, the number of bad seeds that you will get will be really less because they are pre-cleaned that we get. Okay, but then try to observe when your mom is doing it, when she's doing it with rice, when she's doing with jawar or bajra. Try to observe that. Okay. And many a times I don't know, like not now, but when we were small, we used to bring wheat, we never used to bring wheat flour from the market. We used to bring wheat grain, then we used to clean them and get them crushed into flour and make chapatis. Now what we used to do that time is, all these whole wheat that we used to get from the market, they used to come, some of them had husk, as ma'am said. While threshing, we remove the husk portion from the grain, but some used to have the husk in them even after we got it home. So the process of cleaning was carried out at home. So see if that is followed at your home, or whenever you visit your native place, any village, you will see that people still follow these kind of techniques. Okay, now let's do the next activity. Okay, now the next activity is to study the composition of soil. Okay, now you all know what are different types of soil. Do you all know? Where is Sakshi? Janvi, you're mute.
No, I don't.
You don't know? We'll just wait for a minute for Sakshi to just join in.
Okay.
Janvi, I'll explain it. I don't know. Oh, yeah, Sakshi is also here. Okay. All right. So, Sakshi, do you know what are different types of soil? Because you're too much into gardening and all.
I don't know the different types of it, but my dad
Okay,
does,
have you
so that's why.
observed, if you don't know the name, have you observed the difference in the type of soil when you go to different places? Do you see how the soil looks at different places?
Yeah, the color changes.
The color changes, yes. And what else? Y'all can keep your mics on. Now we are going to talk. So
Texture.
The texture is different.
the texture is different. What else? What else? So let's discuss the types of soils first. Now, Janvi, you were somewhere near the India Bhutan boundary, right? And you had good forests there, right? So what was the kind of soil there?
It was very dark brown.
Okay, it was nearly black, nearly blackish. And
Yeah.
what else?
Um,
Anything else?
I don't remember.
Okay. How was the moisture content of the soil?
It was very yeah. It was like a lot of moisture.
Was it really mushy, or was it extremely dry, or what? Did it have adequate amount of moisture? How was
It
it?
it was not very mushy, but a little.
Little less than very mushy.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sakshi, when you went on your road trip and you went to Kutch, what did you observe? What kind of soil did you observe?
There were different types of soil like everywhere around the whole Gujarat.
Hmm.
Some
So
of them were like
anything like, for example, when you were towards Surat or Ahmedabad and then you moved to Kutch. Now Kutch is a desert region, okay? The land is completely barren. There's no fertility. Soil has no fertility out there. So that kind of soil in the desert or near the desert areas, it is sandy type of soil. Okay, it is not
yeah.
completely sand as you see in the beach, but the soil is sandy soil. Okay, so in case of sandy soil, what happens is their water holding capacity is very less. It can't hold moisture. You know what happens when you pour water on sand, right? The water just goes away. Sand feels like dry very quickly. Okay, so these type of sandy soils are not good for growing crops because they can't hold water. Okay, but so that is the sandy type of soil. Now the next type of soil that we see mostly in Maharashtra region, the soil is nice black soil which is extremely fertile. Okay, so that type of soil is very good and it is very rich in minerals. That's what make the soil very very fertile, and that kind of soil also supports the growth of microorganisms. Okay, so when you take some soil from the garden, a black soil from your garden, you will observe that it has a lot of microorganisms also in it. Right, now the next type of soil which we see down south, if we go towards Andhra, Tamil Nadu side, the soil gets reddish. It's not black anymore. Janvi, have you observed it when you go to Tamil Nadu? Have you traveled by train?
No. Yes, I have traveled by train, and we also went by car from Bangalore to Chennai a couple of times.
Okay, so next time when you all travel from one city to other or one state to other, you will have to observe the difference of soil. Okay, now that red type of soil which we have towards the down south side, southern states in India, that soil is not very fertile. Okay, it doesn't grow all the crops really well. as the black soil. But those kind of crops are good for growing proteins, like all the pulses and all grow really well in that kind of soil. Okay. And that soil is typically, like, it's not very, very wet, but it's not extremely dry also. It's towards the drier side. The water holding capacity is not as good as the black soil. So now this fourth activity that we have here, we need to take soil samples from different places. Now, typically what will happen is, if you are in a city, your garden soil or soil from your school or all these places, typically will have same type of soil. So the difference cannot be observed really well. What you need to do is, you need to get soil samples from a construction site. Okay. So what do you think will be the soil? What will be the type of soil in a construction site? Will it be good for growing crops? No.
Probably because it's from under, like it's dug out.
It's dug out, but digging out doesn't change the property of soil, right? You'll reach the stone and the rock layer, but we are still talking about the top layer of the soil. The soil layers, if you all remember, we had done the soil layers. So the top layer of the soil is what we are talking about right now. So the top layer will be a little cementy and will be a little dry from a construction site, and the garden soil will be really soft and ready for growing crops. So what you will have to do is, for this activity also, and it is not a one time activity, okay, you'll have to observe soils from different places wherever you walk by. I did this experiment when I was a child, and till date, whenever I travel, I have this habit of checking the colors of the soil. So try doing that. Yeah. So try to observe, and wherever possible, take little bit of sample with you. Okay. Take the sample in a funnel. You know how a funnel looks? Yeah. So take a tissue paper, line the inner side of the funnel using the tissue paper. Okay. And put soil inside the funnel. Now take, say, 10 ml of water and pour this 10 ml water into your funnel, and see in how much time the water gets collected under the funnel. That will tell you the water holding capacity of that soil. So in case of a sandy soil, the water will flow very quickly down. But in case of a garden soil, the water will stay in the soil for a longer time. Only little bit of water will come out. Okay. So perform activities like these to study the type of soil. So what will you do? Can you please brief me what you will do with the soil samples now? Yeah, Janvi.
So wherever you go, a new place, you have to carry a funnel. I mean, if you
You can
do
bring the sample back home. You need not carry a funnel with you.
to test the sample, you need a funnel,
Huh.
and then you put the mud or soil on the top of the funnel, and then you pour water. And if the the longer the water takes to come down, sort of that much water holding capacity it has.
Water holding capacity of the soil. Okay. So the first way to identify soil is by its color. Second is to touch and feel how the soil is. Does it feel very dry? If the soil feels very, very dry, not too many microorganisms can grow and survive in that soil, right? If it is a black, rich soil, like your garden soil, then microorganisms will be present. You will not be able to see them with your naked eyes, but they will be present. That is what is making the soil very, very fertile. Okay. And second thing is, you'll test the water holding capacity. Is this clear to you all? Now, depending upon the type of soil, their uses, like fertility and growth of crop, is one thing that we do with soil. Okay, there are lots of other things that we do with soil, like we made all these pots and all, right? We made a lot of goods using different types of soil. We make bricks. Okay, so for making different articles you need different types of soil, and this selection of type of soil to make different things is dependent on the property of that soil. Okay, like for if like the as I said, the soil in the southern states, it is more dry, more towards reddish. These soils are really good for making bricks. Okay, so that is what you have to observe and study on a continuous basis, not as an one time experiment, but on a continuous basis you'll have to observe these things. Okay, so this is the fourth experiment for today. All right, now if you all have any questions, you can ask Nicola ma'am. Okay, Nicola ma'am is not yeah, Nicola ma'am, you have any questions for them? Yeah, so ma'am will be asking you all a few questions and then we will close the session. Okay.
Yes. The first question is, most of the fertilizers are rich in three elements. What are they?
I didn't quite.
Yeah, so ma'am's question was, the fertilizers are rich in which three chemicals? Come on, girls. What are the three macronutrients which the crops require to grow?
Ammonia.
Ammonia is a compound. We're talking about elements.
Elements. Three elements which are required by the plants to grow, for the crops to grow, which is used in fertilizers. Okay, that is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Okay. Now, which is a better system for irrigation of crops? Sprinkler system or drip system?
Drip system.
Drip system. Okay, very good. Now, name the machine that is used to sow the seeds. Name the machine that is used to sow the seeds. What's the name of the machine called?
Seed drill.
Yes, seed drill, correct. What is the principle of winnowing? On what principle it depends? Winnowing. What's the principle behind it? How the two particles get separated?
The light one gets blown away and the heavy one stays.
So is it based on weight or is it based on size?
I think weight.
Yes, Sakshi. Okay, so you all need to find the answer for this, okay? Winnowing is based on weight or winnowing is based on size? Yeah, Nicola ma'am, next. All right, looks like Nicola ma'am has connectivity issues today. All right, so what you all do is we will stop the class here. There are questions in the quiz which you all have to take after the class. Okay, I will share a video on the group. It will tell you how to access your quiz. So what I'll do is, are you all able to see my screen now? No? Wait.
No.
I'll share my screen right away. I'll just show you all quickly how to do that. Are you all able to see my screen now? My screen is visible to y'all?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So you have to open e-laboratory.kitukate.com. Okay. Both of you are registered in the site. So you have to use your name and username and password to log in. In case if you don't remember, ping me. I will tell you what your password is. Okay. So once you log in with your credentials, you will see a home board. Okay, I logged in as an admin. Just give me a moment. So you will see a dashboard. Okay, in the dashboard under my courses, you will see grade 8. You'll see grade 8. So this is your course and this is your first chapter. So you have to click on launch. So once you click on launch, you will see that there are various steps. So the step 1 is the presentation that we used during the class. Step 2 is the experiment sheet. Step 3 is your quiz. Step 4, you can watch certain videos that we have kept for you all, which are related to this topic. And the further research activity, which I had told you all about, is given here. So, just a minute. Still loading. Yeah. So your further research activity is listed here. Okay. So you have to carry out this activity. Okay. And I'll just show you how a quiz looks. So click on quiz and say attempt quiz now. So there are 10 questions in your quiz. You have to go on solving one by one question and move to the next page. Do this for all the 10 questions, and in the end, you have to click on submit now. Now submit now, there is one button on the main page, and after you click on that button, you will have a pop-up which will again ask you to submit. So you have to click two submit now buttons, and then you will see the result of your quiz immediately after you click submit. Okay, is this clear to y'all?
Yeah. Every time I try to log in, it shows the email ID does not exist.
Really? I'll check your email and password and I'll send it to you on WhatsApp. Okay. Sakshi, if you have difficulty in logging in, you please tell me. I'll share the email ID and password with you. Okay. All right. So your classes henceforth will be little different from how it used to be before. Okay. There'll be a lot of theory also, because you need to study and understand the concepts well now, because you're preparing for some kind of an examination, right? So a lot of theory will also be there, so don't get bored with the theory. It's very important that you know. So that's why, as a prerequisite, from next class onwards, we will tell you the chapter name, read the chapter and come for the class, so the theory will not appear boring. Okay. All right. Bye-bye, girls. Bye. See you.
I have one question.
Yeah, Janvi.
So the two pots I have to grow one specific seed, one with manure and one without manure, right?
Exactly. And except for the addition of manure, there should be no other difference. If you're placing 4 seeds, it should be 4 in both. The amount of soil that you take should be same. The amount of water that you give,
Okay.
the amount of sunlight that they get, everything should be same. The differentiation factor should be the addition of manure. That's how you can
Okay.
observe that what difference manure or fertilizer is making to the growth of plant.
Okay.
Yeah. Sakshi, if you don't have pots now, you can do it in one segment in your garden. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you.